Well, so here's the question. So the overlap between owls and death, right? So
Right.
people, it is very common for people to report owls either most often after someone dies. And I've got so many accounts like this. Can I tell a personal story? This is like happened to me.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is like, I'm the witness. I'm right here. It's
Okay.
like, so my mother was very ill. This is going back to 2013, and her health was failing. And I was called she was living in North Carolina near my sister. My sister was helping take care of her. And I got a call and said, Mike, Mom's unconscious. They don't expect her to regain her consciousness. So I flew to North Carolina, and I was sitting by my mother's bedside when she died. It was a really powerful experience. It happened at like 3 a.m. My sister and I were up all night with my mom, and we were right there when she gave her last breath. It was a terribly moving experience for my sister and I. And it was one that like is like it's happened all throughout mankind's history, like children at their parents' bedside when they pass. So the next day, like it was 3 o'clock in the morning when this happened, we had all of these issues. We had funeral arrangements and people to call and stuff. So all of us were like trying to sleep at the same time, trying to get stuff done. So that night, I'm at my sister's house. My brother was there too. He wasn't at the bedside when my mom passed, but he was there shortly after we called him. We're sitting in the backyard of my sister's house. She's got like a couch on the back porch, and her next door neighbor, the woman who lives across the street, Ruthie, was right there. And she's a real person. You can call her. She's as powerful a witness as any person could be. This story doesn't have anything to do with UFOs, but it has everything to do with the mystique of the owl. Mm-hmm. So Ruthie sits across from my sister, brother and I. I'm in the middle on the couch. They're right and left of me. And they both were very familiar with my owl research. They didn't know what to make of it. And Ruthie says, to me and my brother and sisters, my Jim, Gene, Mike, I know there's an afterlife. And I know because of an experience I had with an owl. And when she said owl, both my sister and brother gave me this look like, did you put her up to this? What's going on? Like they looked at me like, what's going on here? Did you? And I was like, she looked at my brother and sister, and I had to, Ruthie, like, you don't know what's going on, but I've been doing research about owls, mystical stuff with owls, often surrounding death. I want to hear your story. So she says, when her father died, she was grieving. And there's this nature trail that snakes around the neighborhood they live in. So she would walk that nature trail every day, trying to process her grieving. And every day she would pass this owl. And then one day she was passing the owl, and the owl hooted at her. And she said, I looked at the owl, and she said, are you my daddy? And at that moment, all her grieving ended. And the owl flew off, and she hasn't seen it since. And she said, I know, in my heart, I know there is an afterlife. My father came back in the form of an owl to help me understand that and to alleviate my grieving. Mm. I have that story. That happened to me, and I have that story so many times in the research where people will say, like, often a child will see an owl after one of their parents has passed, and they will talk to the owl as if it is their parent. That is normal. And I'm suspecting it's been normal all throughout human history. I'm certain people stepped out of the cave after their father died and saw an owl and talked to the owl as if it was their dead father. I'm not saying it is. But I'm saying that within the human experience, we tap into that.
Well, this ties back to the whole phenomenon of the synchronicities, right? Like when you dedicate so much focus to one thing, it appears everywhere.
Absolutely.
Just like the 11:11, or like in my experience, that there's a crazy story that happened, crazy thing that happened to me a long time ago. I won't tell all the details. I would bore you with it, but there was this girl that we found swimming in the ocean in off the Cayman Islands. Random girl. We were diving in a boat with no boats around us anywhere, and some girl was swimming in a dress, was in our boat when we came up from scuba diving, and she was like fucked up on some sort of drugs. We don't know what it was. She was like on mushrooms or something, and she had 242 tattooed on her ankle. And me and my buddy, who were diving together, we both noticed her tattoo. And now we see 242 everywhere we go, right? It's like a synchronicity. It's just like, because we have that crazy experience that we were both there, we both noticed her tattoo. Now me and him, I mean, almost weekly, we'll text each other these crazy things where we'll get a receipt that's 242, or we got some crazy call that was at 242. I feel like this happens with so many things. People that think who have had one experience with a flying saucer or a UFO, they're always looking in the sky for this stuff. Now, like people who have never had these experiences, they don't. Most people aren't looking into the sky. Most people are focusing ahead. They're staring at their phones, or they're driving down the street, or they're staring at a computer screen. They don't have time to. They're too involved in the rat race of life. They're not looking at the sky, trying to find meaning in something. But people who have had one experience that kind of jolts them out of reality, now they're kind of like open to more of these, anything that resembles that happening again.
That's me.
Right,
Yeah.
that's you. Right, exactly. And it seems to be the same thing with a lot of people who have these UFO experiences.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, it's funny. You go to a UFO conference, you can actually, I use that as an example. That's the great way to, like, you get a bunch of people in the same room together. All of them are enthusiasts. And I would argue that many of them have had contact and are embarrassed to say it oftentimes. So what happens at a UFO conference? You get someone at the bar and you get a few glasses of wine in them and like, oh, well, what's going on? You know, like oftentimes the really stoic, dry researcher will say like, oh, you know what? I had this experience. And then they'll tell like the experience that sounds like missing time. And,
right.
And so.
And it's so much fun to talk about too.
And you were saying like going to a UFO conference, aren't you like predisposed to like meeting people with, and like, yeah, that's why you go there.
Right.
That's like you go there, like the plumbers go to the plumbers conference, they can talk to other plumbers, you know? So, but the, okay, I got to circle back to where you were starting me from this, the being predisposed to this. Mm-hmm. So you can go to a UFO conference and say, ask someone, what's your number? And they won't skip a beat and they'll say 1010. Or they'll say 1111, or they'll say 1234, or they'll say 333. I get a lot of grief from that. I've had some powerful, like some of the most powerful experiences I've had are often punctuated. I'm looking at your watch right now. What time is it?
12:23.
Okay. I was trying to read it upside down. I would have like proved myself. But okay, so I tried. But
Try me in 7 minutes.
Oh, well, it's cheating. It doesn't count. 7 minutes. So yes, you're predisposed to like have these number of things. But as far as my own experience, 1, 2, 3, 4 has shown up a lot in my nuttiness. And so it's like, you know, like the timestamp on a blog post, the timestamps on clocks and things like that. So this is the way I say it. I say, I'm not going to start a new religion because I saw 1, 2, 3, 4, but I'm going to take note of it. Oftentimes in the book, I'll just say, you know, I noted the timestamp was 1, 2, 3, 4, and I don't want to, you know, I mean, I recognize how paranoid that sounds, but I mean, you're pulling on these little threads, and
right.
Sometimes the thinnest little thread will, if you pull on it and find the end of it, it'll have some deeper meaning.